Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Tulsi Gabbard doesn't just hit a home run with this answer. She nukes Mark Kelly so bad that he made an unscheduled trip back into space. Let's dive in.
In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not
I
in our
understand, and I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
Senator, every American deserves to know that people in our own government were providing support to our sworn enemy, al-Qaeda. That should not be acceptable by anyone.
Wow. Just, oh man, this is so good. Okay, the American people need to hear this. All right, remember the hippy-dippy anti-war liberals back right before 2005 and the war started becoming unpopular? And remember them screaming that things were going to go way worse than we could possibly imagine? Those people turned out to be right. And then there was this other guy, a Republican, by the name of Ron Paul, and he said, what we're doing is going to lead to complete and total disaster. Well, that complete and total disaster has pretty much happened. Not to mention the untold millions of lives that have been affected by these terrible policies. And all in all, most of these policies were, in Gaddafi's case, this was revenge. Okay? Mubarak, let's see, I believe he was he's Egyptian. I think that was revenge for arguments over the Suez Canal. And then you have Syria, which is the only place on the Mediterranean that allows Russia to harbor its ships. So when Tulsi Gabbard is out here talking about all the terrible things that we've done in our foreign policy, the Democrats are out there clutching their pearls and going, oh, this is Russian disinformation. You want to go outside of the CIA. Well, given what they've been doing, that might not be a bad thing. Seriously, the whole idea that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian puppet is absolutely asinine. What she is talking about, what she is ultimately saying is these organizations and institutions have been committing pretty dark things, just for lack of a better word. And it's not the first time we've done stuff like this. Under Barack Obama, of course, where a lot of the really dark stuff started taking place, there was Operation Fast and Furious, which ultimately gave guns to the cartels. That was a brief scandal that the mainstream media sort of just slid under the rug, and then people made notes, they took copies, and then sort of made that idea and expanded it to the rest of the Middle East. And thus, lighting a tinderbox that ultimately came in the Arab Spring. And what has happened since then has not been too good for the world. The only benefits that we have had as Americans from starting these forever wars overseas and then causing more conflicts and flooding the zones with weapons that they have to buy from us, not only has that been immoral, it's not benefited us, okay? We still control the Strait of Hormuz, all right? We don't really control the Panama Canal. I'm glad Trump's talking about that. We keep international trade and shipping flowing fairly freely, but nothing has really come of these wars in Libya and in Syria. The only reason that we are looking at Syria and sort of licking our lips and hoping that we get our guy in charge there so we can kick the Russians out and kick the Iranians out, which on one hand, that's a pretty darn good thing. Kicking Russia back to its actual orbit and sphere is a good idea for world peace. What it's not, however, is good for the people of Syria. And we have kept on propping up these terrible governments, and we keep on encouraging them to do worse thing after worse thing after worse thing. What we do overseas in order to checkmate our enemies, that's got to be put in check. And Tulsi Gabbard is going to be at the forefront of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats are out here. They used to be the anti-war party. What happened? Seriously, what happened? Did Barack Obama get into office and then you got to realize that, oh, we don't have to care about this issue anymore because that's our guy? What happened? Seriously, it's going to be a big question that historians are going to ask about this time period. What happened to the Democrat Party's standards? Apparently they were so bad that Tulsi Gabbard, a rising star in the Democrat field, got kicked out of her own party and then joined forces with Donald Trump. And she's not on greatest ground with Republicans because, again, she's an ex-Democrat and the Senate doesn't like that for some insipid reason. But ultimately, I have faith that Tulsi is smart enough to use our intelligence agencies for good rather than the moral gray area that's arguably turning evil. The United States is not an evil country, but we have done some very dark things, both foreign and domestic. But the cool thing about our nation is that we keep getting better. I believe that we can do better on the world stage, and Tulsi's going to be a huge push for that. And meanwhile, Mark Kelly, I know you're a cool dude and you've been to space, but come on. You got nuked on this question, dude. Seriously, he's probably up there in orbit right now singing Ground Control to Major Tom because this guy is one space oddity. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politbrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.